Good morning, and happy Thursday. Good morning, Facebook. Working on Instagram. There we go. Working on Periscope. Good deal. Good morning. This is Tammy Pope, your host of the Virtuous Businesswoman Motivational Broadcast. Um, as many of you know, I am not live on Blog Talk Radio today. They are doing a replay of one of my old shows on Blog Talk Radio today, which is okay because that gives me extra time for those who watch me live. And for the benefit of those who may be watching me for the first time or those who are coming back to me after a while. Again, my name is Tammy Polk, and I'm the face and the voice behind the Virtuous Businesswoman Motivation Broadcast. To tell you a little bit about me, my mission, and my message in as little time as possible, I am a 33-time self published author, speaker, and coach. And my goal and my joy is to inspire, encourage, uplift, and equip you to eliminate excuses and excel in life and business and to create a legacy by writing your way through life. And in this last month or so, I have been working through this series on seeing yourself as a franchise, seeing yourself as building a legacy and what all that entails. And I am not going to belabor it for too long because I do respect you guys' time. So I am going to get into the last four, maybe five topics about being a franchise. And the first one of them is this: a franchise shares what it learns. And one thing about us that can be very difficult because many times once we get a hold to some knowledge, something good, something, awesome that's taking us to the next level, we tend to hold on to it and not share it because we don't want anybody to know that we have figured something out. And that's just not what franchises do. Franchises sit down all the time and have round tables and think tanks. They're not giving away the farm, so to speak, but what they are doing is sharing some things that they have learned and gleaned during their time in the business. And some will even open up their training to other people so that they can come and learn what it is that they've figured out. And it's an opportunity for them to learn and to glean from each other. And that helps everybody in the long run. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, as I said before, we get stingy. And when we find something that gets us to that next level, we want to keep it to ourselves. We've all heard the phrase, when you learn better, you do better. Well, part of doing better is sharing what you have learned. We're all sponges. And you know what a sponge is. A sponge takes in water and takes in water, takes in water, takes in water until it can't take in any more water. And It's just sloshing water everywhere every time that you try to use it. So, what do you have to do with that sponge? You have to wring it out. And that's what we have to do. We learn and we glean so much in a given day that we have to learn to wring some of it out. Um, I understand that we have things that we want to keep secret. However, there are times when that can do more harm than good. So, if you've ever wondered why it is that people keep things to themselves, here are three things that I want you to think about. They don't want people to know that they needed help in that area. And they don't understand that people are looking to them to see how they handle a given situation. So if you don't say, this was a struggle of mine, I needed help in this area, and this is how I overcame it, you're doing more harm than good. A second reason people do that is because they are afraid that the person who helped them will be misused by anybody that they tell. They don't want the person that helped them to get screwed over by anybody. So they won't tell them of what they found out or where they got their help. And the last thing is that people keep good resources to themselves because it's something that they themselves created and they want to protect it before they tell anybody else about it. And we live in a time where everything is copied, imitated, duplicated, and stolen. So, yes, protecting what you create is a must, but be careful. You can help another franchise to become great and become what they are trying to be without giving away the farm. So that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about as far as being a franchise is being persistent. So I ask you this question: are you a microwave or are you a thermostat? There is a huge difference. So you use a microwave when you want it heated up quickly, when you want it to come now, kind of that whole instant gratification thing. Warming up food on the stove seems to take forever. It's good when it comes out, but for some of us, it just takes entirely too long. We live in a microwave society today. It's like get everything quick. And when you see people who are doing things the quote unquote old fashioned way, you laugh at them. However, you won't be laughing long when you see the results of their persistence. You won't be laughing at all. So let's look at this persistence thing. First thing we need to think about is that every franchise, every person has goals that they want to achieve. And they want to make sure that everyone around them knows what those goals are, but they also know their role in those goals being achieved and that they are important, an important part of that. Whoever you have around you, it's important to make sure that you are on the same page and that while you're working to achieve your goals, you're also looking to achieve the goals of those who are riding along with you. Because when it comes to achieving goals, it can't just be about you. It's got to be about the people around you as well. But the challenge there is that many times we will not invest in ourselves. It takes time, money, and effort to get anywhere. And if you're unwilling to invest in yourselves and understand the roles of patience and perseverance, you are not going to build the type of franchise that you want. You have to learn to be a thermostat and understand that certain things take time. It takes time. Take McDonald's, for example. They didn't get to 1 billion served overnight. It took time and effort. They had to get a feel for what people wanted, how to stay relevant as new generations came along. And then they also had to think a little bit about what they wanted as consumers. But it took time to get there. It didn't happen overnight. But then there's one thing that a lot of people miss, and it's this: do you even have goals? You know that you want more out of life than what you're doing every day. But the thing about it is, what are you doing with that desire? Because the first step in having goals is to want something better for yourself, to want something more to yourself, for yourself, and to want something different. And that's not going to happen when your only goal is to work, pay bills, do enough to get by, and stay comfortable where you are. That's why you don't have goals. And one of the reasons why you don't have goals many times is that you've forgotten who you are. In my Every Woman is a Businesswoman boot camp, I tell the women there on day one, ask yourself who you are. Look past the roles that you have, past the job that you have, past your family. Who are you as a person? What are your talents and interests? What are your hobbies? What would you spend all day doing if you had the chance? What do you want out of life? The awesome things about goals is that goals give you direction. And if you go through the day only doing what you did the day before, you're going to be on a perpetual hamster wheel until you die. You are meant to be an ant. And you're like, an ant? Ants are small. People step on them and fry them with magnifying glasses. Yes, that's true. That's true. But the thing about an ant is that an ant is stronger than it looks, and it spends most of its time preparing for winter. It's preparing because it knows that winter is coming. and that it needs to pack things away so that it can sustain itself. But most of us are stuck in phoenix mode. We're buried by all of the ashes that life puts on top of us, and then we die. And once we realize what's going on, we have a whole lot of stuff to fight through, to break through for that rebirth to happen. So you have to think about and ask yourself whether you really have goals. Because an ant has goals. It spends 3 seasons out of the year preparing for winter. It's always looking for stuff, packing away stuff, moving stuff, so that when winter comes, it can survive. And if you've ever heard the fable, the ant and the grasshopper, most of us are grasshoppers. We goof around, we do what's comfortable and what's easy, and we procrastinate until the last possible second. Then, when winter comes and we're not able to make it, we're running to the ants for help. So, what you have to understand is that each one of us should have something that we are working towards. And we have to understand that it's going to take work to get it. And if you're not willing to do the work, you can't be mad when you don't reap the reward. You're looking at other people's lives and saying that that's what you want, or you want a part of that, yet you're not willing to do what they did. You're not willing to fight through what they fought through in order to get what you see. You're not going to lose 50 pounds that you want to lose if you're still eating the same way and you only go to the gym once a month. It's not going to happen. You have to work at it every day. No franchise that you see has gotten to where it is without being persistent and without being patient. You can't take your ball and go home because your results are not immediate. And failure is going to teach you a lot more than success. What you gain through impatience is going to be fleeting. It's going to be something that does not hold a whole lot of value. And we see that as parents when we tell our kids to stop rushing, to through life, stop, wishing for this and wishing for that, because there's better out there if you just wait and prepare for it. We've all heard the phrase, good things come to those who wait and better things come to those who work. That's true. Because to me, there's nothing sadder than somebody who sits back and takes whatever life hands them without trying to do anything for themselves. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of employers, when they do one-on-ones with their people, they ask them, where do you see yourself in the next year, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? It's because they want to see where their head is. They want to see if they have goals and if they're and if their work ethic is going to push and propel the team forward or if they're going to be a hindrance. So, not only do you have to share what you learn, be persistent, you have to learn to persevere in adversity. Things change every day. Every day that you wake up, something will have changed. Think about how you go back to your old neighborhood to visit or your hometown. And one of the first things that you're going to see is that some of the people and the places that were there when you lived there or when you grew up there, they may be gone now. And there is that rare occasion that they may still be around. Despite what has gone on, they have stood the test of time. But what they understood was that as they built their franchise, as they continued in their life and their business, they knew that adversity was going to come. And instead of tucking their tail and running, they decided to do something about it. There's a verse in the Bible that says, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. No franchise is going to survive with small strength. So, one of the biggest things that we deal with is changes in the economy. And changes in the economy will make us make decisions that aren't the best ones at that time. And one thing you have to avoid is this. If you're going through a hard time, one of the worst things you can do is shut down what you are doing and jump on to somebody else's team instead of weathering your storm until it passes over. Don't give up on what you're trying to do because you see somebody else who has their stuff together and they're making it happen. So you feel like the only way that you're going to have what it is you're trying to get is if you jump on board with them. That's not the only way that you can have a strong franchise. Because what's going to happen is they're going to enjoy the fact that you're over there with them, but they're going to ask you what happened to your stuff? What happened with what you were doing? And you'll blow them off. You won't want to talk about it because they're going to ask you why you gave up. And having that kind of mentality is going to bring in a whole nother wave of adversity. Because now that you've given up and gotten on somebody else's team, what's going to happen when the tough times touch the bandwagon that you jumped on? You won't be able to jump off because then they're going to know that you weren't really for them and they're not going to trust you. So now you're stuck on a broken wagon trying to figure out how to escape. And you wouldn't be in that situation if you had stuck to building your own franchise, even in the face of hard times. When we abandon what we're trying to build and latch on to what someone else has, we may see gains, we may see positive things, but the thing about it is, it's going to be temporary. Yes, you may get noticed more, you may gain more traction, you may gain more money. However, at what cost? What all have you lost in order to win temporarily? You may think that you're doing okay, but you're not. Because what we have to understand is that many of the major franchises that are still thriving today are doing so because they have people who will support them through anything. And whether you know it or see it or not, there are some people around you who are supporting you steadily simply because they want to see you be great. They want to see you stick around. They want to see you and your franchise standing tall. These are the people who you can tell them that you have a need and then you've got it in less than 24 hours. And it's because there's something inside of them that needs to see you make it, that needs to see you be able to stand in adversity. So they get in the fight with you. They may not be able to do a whole lot, but what they are doing is meant to help you to keep going. Because life brings adversity every day, and that's not going to change. However, you don't have to act as if it's the end of the world because life hits. Because it's not going to stop coming. I've told this story before, but I was talking to a young lady on Facebook in a group. She lost her job, and she was on Facebook. She was just pouring out, wondering why her company let her go, wondering why this was happening, thinking what is she gonna do, what things like that. And so I asked her, I said, do you have a skill that you can market online right now and make money from it? And she told me that she liked to bake. And it was Valentine's Day weekend, approaching Valentine's Day weekend. So I gave her a challenge. I said, post things, pictures of sweet treats that you've made, post prices, and set pickup and delivery hours. And she said, okay, I'm going to do that. She made $300 in that one weekend. Now, that may not sound like a whole lot to a lot of people. However, when you've just lost your job, $300 is a lot of money. $300 is a lot of money. But that's what franchises do in the face of adversity. They look at their strengths and they say, okay, what can I do? That's the first step. Excuse me, guys, allergies. But that's the first step in surviving adversity is to never forget who you are and what you can do. Never forget where you started from and what you started with. In my Toastmasters group, a young one of my colleagues gave a speech about Lego, the company Lego. Everybody knows what Legos are, but she shared that Lego, in building their franchise, they forgot who they were and where they started. When they started opening retail stores and amusement parks and all this other stuff, their sales plummeted. And it was because that's not what they were known for. They were known for building block sets. And so, okay, sorry about that. So they decided to go back to their core, go back to doing what it was that they were known and loved for. And when they did, their sales increased and they got back on top. When it comes to building your franchise, you have to understand that there are things about you, your mission, and your message that even the economy shouldn't be able to change. The second thing about surviving adversity is to make sure that you are protected from as much as humanly possible. What do I mean by that? Have insurance on everything and keep it current. You never know what's going to happen, and you want to be able to still make it should something catastrophic happen. Nothing we have today is certain for us to hold on to, and we can lose it at any time. That includes your health. Think about that. So, the third way to survive adversity, and I just saw a very good friend of mine join me on Instagram. She's going to love this, and she knows who she is because she's going to say amen again as soon as I say it. But the third way to survive adversity is to audit your circle. Evaluate who you have around you. Ask them why they're there. And when the truth is shown to you, believe it and act accordingly, because chances are there are some people who are only close to you because of what they can get from you, and you've got folks around you that you are a little bit suspicious of at times. They may not know that you are suspicious of them. However, in days such as these, knowing who you can trust and who really has your back can make or break your franchise. So never forget who you are, protect yourself, and audit your circle. Those are the three ways for you to survive adversity. Lord, it looks like I'm actually going to finish this series before October. Amen. Lights. Okay. This next one is going to get me in a lot of trouble, but y'all know me. They call me trouble. A franchise tells its story. Every franchise has a story, and they need to tell it. Because think about what happens when you sit down to pick somebody's brain. What do they tell you? They tell you what they have done, how they currently do things, whether it be life and business. They're going to tell you their story so that you can get the full picture of what you're asking them. If you go into anybody's job training program, a major part of their training is going to consist of them telling the company's history. They're going to tell you about the founder, the initial idea, how they got started, the growth that they've seen, the challenges, they're going to give you statistics. You are no different. Thanks, August. We all go through stuff in life that people need to know that we went through. Why? It's because people need to see that it's possible to overcome whatever it was. They need to see the light that's at the end of the tunnel. They need to know that the light that they see is not a mirage, but it really is the way out of their situation. But then on the other side of that, people will have misconceptions about you that by telling your story, that's the only way that it's going to be cleared up, because truth exposes error. Think about it. People in upper management in a franchise tell the company story to remind their team members of what the mission, values, and goals in the company are. How many times have you taught your child or a child in your life a life lesson by telling them a story from your childhood that has relationship to what they're going through? It's the same thing. You do it because you want them to understand and be on the same page with you so you can work together and be great. Does that mean that everything we say will be something that we're proud of? Nope. But people need to know about our failures and our falls from grace. They do. Especially if it's something that they're headed towards that they haven't experienced yet. Knowing what can happen before they have to experience it will not only help them see it coming, but it just might be what they need to avoid it. They may not always be able to avoid it, but knowing what happened will help them to get through it. Does that mean that people may see you differently than they did at first? Yes. And this can be very painful to endure. Honesty hurts, but honesty that hurts is better than a lie that coats. And that's the reason why identity theft is on the rise. It's because people want to do so much to erase their past and start over that they're willing to take and steal from somebody else to do that. They don't care about who they hurt or how much it's going to cost them. All they want is a new life, a better life, and more material things because they want to erase the person that they were. Does telling your story mean that you will have to admit that you failed? Yes, it does. And you have to understand that not everybody is going to take it the way that you want them to, but you can't share the glows without the grows. People need to know about the hiccups, the scrapes, and the scratches, what worked and what didn't, because if they're trying to do the same thing, they are most likely going to get the same result. And it's like I tell people all the time, your story is meant to change somebody's life, faith, family, ministry, or business. And they need to know that they can relate to us. And the only way that that's going to happen is if we open our mouth and share our stories. Because how many times has somebody looked at you and said, I bet you've never struggled a day in your life, or you don't know what life is. And you've looked at that person and you just kind of laugh to yourself. But as soon as you opened up and let that person know what your story is, they are sorry that they ever said anything to you. That goes back to that misconception that I talked about. And now They have a newfound respect for you. They may still be shaken by your story, but they have a whole lot more respect for you, and they're going to watch their mouth around you from that point on. So, telling your story helps people understand who, what, when, where, why, how, and how much. Yes, there are some things that everyone is not meant to know, but you're not going to change the world in the way that you want to if you stay silent. You can't be the best kept secret in the world and be successful. Because when people know who you are, what you are about, they're going to tell other people about you. Not everyone out there wants you to cower and hide. There are people out there who know the impact of your story and want you to share it in the world. So I ask you this: who or what are you allowing to stop you from telling your story and from changing lives? Very last one, and then I'm going to let you guys go. And this one is probably the hardest, which is why I saved it for last. A franchise helps to build other franchises. Every man is my teacher is something that I've heard my pastor say over the years, but we don't realize how true that is. We learn something from every person that we encounter. Think about when you're in the line at the grocery store and somebody's going off about the cashier and the store and all of this other stuff, and you can literally look and feel the demeanor of that cashier change. And so you say, you know what, that's not going to be me. So when it's your turn at the cash register, you'll get up there and say, good morning, or smile at them, or ask them about their day. You do something to lighten their load and make them feel better. And it puts a little bit of pep in their step, and it impacts everybody coming behind you. And then if you go back to that place and that cashier sees you, they will break their neck to serve you and do so with a smile. Simply because you learned from the person in front of you that being cantankerous like that is not going to yield good results. It's not going to get you what you want. So when you see somebody who is working to be or always getting bombarded with negativity and you need to do this and you need to do that and why aren't you doing this? Find a way to be an encouraging voice of reason. Listen to them. Pray with them. Help them to see that those who don't know how to talk to people, what they're really trying to say. You can't build another franchise if you're running on the montage of, woo, I'm glad they weren't talking to me. That's not what that person needs. They need your help. Another part of building your franchise is sharing resources. When was the last time you invested in somebody else? When was the last time you checked with them to see if the new thing that you learned or gleaned can help them? And it doesn't have to be anything major. You could tell them about an event you went to, a book you read, a video you watched, a restaurant you ate at, anything at all. Because what we have to understand is this: investing in someone else doesn't always mean that you're spending or receiving money. Because when you invest in other people, it's about helping them to make it through so that they can operate in light of the vision that God gave them. But many times we're focused on who burned us and how we need to protect ourselves, not thinking about the fact that there are people out there who genuinely need our help. They need help building their franchises, and it's us that have the key to doing that. We can't project the results of what happened to us before on everybody else. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be cautious. However, you can't continuously allow fear to keep you from helping to change somebody's life. Get on the phone with them, sit down with them face to face, talk about what's going on in their world and not just about what's going on with you. Show concern for them. Even if they tell you that they are okay and they're more concerned about you, sometimes that's a test to see if you're going to ask what's going on with them. Share things that have influenced you in a positive way. Don't always come into a conversation with the negative and call yourself trying to help somebody. I'm all for warning people, but check your motive behind that warning. Because we have to understand when we set our hearts and minds to help each other out, we receive more than we think. That reminds me of a funny story, and then I'm going to let you guys go. I was sitting down with an aspiring author. She invited me to lunch. And I told my story. I spread out my books and I told her the story about each one. I answered all of her questions. And then I started talking about what she was working on. And she handed me a brochure of products, that her company sold. And I was looking through that while I was eating and listening. And a couple of days after our meeting, I sent her a message saying, hey, it was great talking to you. I'm glad that we got a chance to sit down. We need to do this again. And then she asked me about the brochure. So I had seen a few things that I liked. And she asked me, out of those three things, which one of those that I absolutely have to have. And so I told her, and I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't thinking about all of the questions that she was asking me. But the next thing I know, she messages me and she says, hey, that product that you like is going to be delivered to me next week. I'll let you know when it gets here and we can meet up to get it. She used what she had to lift my spirits because it was one thing that she knew that she could do. And I told that story to say this: when you take time to show genuine interest in what other people are doing, there'll be a lot of things in life and business that you won't have to worry about getting and doing because they will be behind the scenes doing it for you. You may not be looking for anything in return, yet it's going to compel them to do something for you, and they are going to beg you to accept what they've done. So this is my final thought. Building other franchises takes nothing away from you. What you told them about will still be there for you. The mentor that you told them to work with is not going to forget about you. The book that you told them about is not going to disappear from your bookshelf or nor from Amazon. The event that you told them to attend will still have a ticket for you. What I'm trying to say is that you need to stop thinking that you are losing because you are sharing with another franchise. And remember that you did not get to where you are without someone investing in you. And now it is time to pay it forward. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been the You Are a Franchise series. And this is the longest video that I've ever done. And I want to thank everybody who stayed on with me, who liked, who shared, who commented, who waved at me, who will be watching this replay. Y'all know I'm usually not this long, but since I did not have the constraints of radio time today, I wanted to go ahead and finish this out. So I know I've said a lot. I'm going to get off of here before stuff time starts to time out. This is Tammy Polk, the host of the Virtuous Businesswoman Motivational Broadcast. And as always, God bless, Godspeed in all that you do. Keep charging. Remember, you are a franchise and help to build others. I will see and hear from you guys in October. Make it a great Thursday, guys.